I'm in the Millennium Room here at the government offices talking with Alf Cannan, MHK. You're kind of making a few waves, Mr. Cannan, in your first few months, and you certainly keep the pressure on. You've asked a question about reserves, and you've had an answer you weren't expecting.
Yes, that's right. The purpose of my written question was to establish what the current balance of the reserve fund was, and what the balance of the reserve fund would be, or proposed balance of the reserve fund would be on the 31st of March 2013. And what I was looking for was to see how the Pinewood deal would impact on the proposed reserves.
And you are against this, aren't you?
I was against Pinewood. I openly voiced my opposition to that for a number of reasons. But what I wasn't expecting to see was a further proposal to allocate £100 million into a Depositors Compensation Fund, which, combined with the £55 million that government is proposing to transfer into the general revenue account to keep the economy running smoothly, overall it equates to £200 million, which would mean the reserve fund went from £397 million to £188 million by the 31st of March next year.
Well, this was discussed at the budget time, wasn't it? I mean, there were mootings of...
There were mootings around the Depositors Compensation Fund of £100 million. There was certainly the allocation of £24 million to Pinewood, although in the air, was never firmed up, and the £100 million was withdrawn under a little bit of pressure that had arisen from the backbenchers behind the scenes. So I understood that this was now being put out into the long grass. So it was with some surprise that I now read the answer to my written question to see this £100 million back on the agenda.
It's just an accounting process, surely. I mean, the £100 million is still intact. It's just being put into a separate account, if you like, isn't it?
Well, it would seem we haven't had a firm and clear explanation from the Treasury Minister, and it does say proposed, but we do need a firm and clear explanation from the Treasury Minister. But once it's put into a fund, it will look foolish for us then have to go back to that fund and bring it back. And plus the fact, if there were to be an economic bank collapse, I'm sure it would be an international one, and this £100 million that we've set aside really would be a small pinprick in compared to the mountain that would be faced by many depositors. And we can't afford at the moment to risk the reserves by putting them into schemes, although relatively safe. Nevertheless, it would mean that the cash reserve was depleted.
Does it need a vote from Tynwald to actually sanction that money move? Or would it be something the Treasury can do?
No, I would have thought that the Treasury Minister would come to Tynwald with this.
So they're not actually hiding it then, because they would have had to come forward?
Well, they would have had to come forward, but nevertheless, it's a surprise to see it appear in a written question, and certainly surprising to see it before members have had any sort of briefing or any sort of notice that this is back on the agenda. As I said, in February this was off the agenda. It was put out to the long grass under some opposition. And furthermore, I don't even see the need for it. I mean, depositors are protected at the moment. There is a Depositors Compensation Scheme that is in existence. The banks are responsible for covering that on the Isle of Man. So I don't see that there's a further need to create this Depositors Compensation Fund unless the Treasury Minister has got some alternative explanation, which so far we haven't been told about.
And that's what I'm questioning as well. I mean, you've been given the answer about the money, but he hasn't given you the wherewithal that went on behind the scenes. What are you expecting from him now?
Well, I'm expecting some answers, basically.
But he says he's going to do it, isn't he?
No, it's a proposal. It's a proposal. So it says it's proposed to transfer £100 million alongside the £55 million to the general revenue, the £24 million to Pinewood, and I presume a few £1 million elsewhere to support the general budget. But we do need an explanation on this. The Treasury Minister will have to come and explain this. It will have to be voted through Tynwald. But at this current time, I think it is very unwise to put in £100 million into another fund when and reduce us down to £188 million, and we've still got 2 or 3 years left of rebalancing at this stage. So my key point here is that actually what we need to be doing is focusing on financial sobriety, i.e. maintaining our books sensibly and with proper scrutiny. I think that we need to be looking at the economic growth and how that's going to develop further forward, and we've also got to deal with the scope and structure of government. These should be the 3 core planks that we should be looking at, and what we're doing at the moment, I feel and worry, is that we're getting distracted by although possibly important issues, but not important enough for the financial security and stability of the Isle of Man going forward.